My name is Ro, and I am the founder and owner of Exotic Auto Trade. And I came out here today because I want to get a better understanding and get more experience with this new camera that I just got, the Osmo Pocket 3, to better figure out how to maneuver certain things, best practices on when I partner with some of the dealerships that I partner with, that they're allowing me to shoot some of their cars. I just want to be prepared when I get out there so I look like I know what I'm doing and I create great content for you guys. So I'm out here today with my personal car. I've had this car and it's an Audi RS5. It's a 2018. It's not a brand new one. I bought this car, funny enough, when I was selling at Audi Atlanta. I actually sold this car to a client of mine. And that client, about, I want to say maybe 6 months to a year later, somewhere after that, he came back in and was looking to sell it because he wanted to take that money that he put into the car and put it into the stock market. And at the time, after I'd sold him this car, I'd probably gone through, 2 or 3 cars by then. I did have a 2021 brand new Nardo Gray Audi RS5 Sportback, and it was pretty fully loaded. I really missed that car. The sex appeal that a coupe has, that Sportback has that same exact sex appeal, but it has so much more utility. First of all, obviously, having the back doors really is huge because, I like having my parents in the car with me or any friends or anything like that. So it's just easier if I'm like, hey, I'll drive us or whatever. They can just open the back door, get in, yada yada. Obviously, you can get a car that has super high performance and you can enjoy the hell out of it. The 911s, everything, Lambos, all that, which obviously is great. But on a day-to-day basis, the level of power that this car has for day-to-day driving is more than enough. Because this is kind of reaching that threshold of power where like, okay, anything beyond this, and if I'm always exploring that range of power all the time, I'm bound to get police tickets and pulled over and all that kind of stuff. But back to this car, it's Misano red. It does have the wheels all blacked out. I think one of the previous owners, they had them powder coated. So this particular car, I have an APR stage 1 on the car, and it bumps up the horsepower. It's at the crank. So at the crank is about 444 stock. And I think this bumps it up to closer to 500. So I think they say like 500, but I really think it's in the ballpark of, 480, 490. And it's been an amazing car. When you switch between the different drive modes, between comfort and dynamic, they're 2 completely different cars, which is another really big reason why I love this car and why I love the Sportback, because when you put it in comfort mode, it's almost like you're driving a cruiser, like just a nice luxury car. It's not like an S-Class or anything like that. It's just very, very smooth, almost like a mid-size luxury sedan. It goes over the bumps and inconsistencies on the road very smoothly. All of that. The acceleration is a lot less sensitive, so taking off from just a starting point, it's very gradual, very smooth, very comfortable. The steering wheel is very loose and nimble. But then when you put it in dynamic, all of a sudden it just becomes an animal. Like the suspension tightens up. When you're driving straight down the road, you're gonna get like some bumps and stuff going like that. And when you put it in dynamic mode, first of all, the exhaust opens up, which is key point number 1. Number 2 is the suspension tightens up. So you literally are bouncing up and down like this, going down even the interstate on it. But the best part about the suspension tightening up like that is when you start approaching, curves and turns that you really want to kind of breeze through really quickly. When you put it in that dynamic mode, there's like little to no body roll and you're just taking that corner, especially with the Audis with the all-wheel drive. It's just like, it's literally like it's on train tracks. And for those of you that have all-wheel drive and know how to drive it, you slowly enter into the turn, and then you gradually are pushing the gas as you go through those turns, and it's just literally on train tracks. And it is a V6. It doesn't have that V8 rumble, but when you shift gears on this, now I also have the resonators deleted on this car, so that kind of opens it up. I like to call it almost like an OEM plus. It doesn't make it significantly louder, but the pops, the bangs, the deeper tones of the car, it kind of opens those up and enhances that slightly more. And I'll be honest, I've heard RS5s, some of my old coworkers that had RS5s, when they would leave the dealership, there was a straightaway and they would just kind of gun it down that road. And when they were blipping through the gears, it almost like it low-key kind of sounds like the car's breaking through a sound barrier kind of bass to it when you're changing the gears. And that's one of the biggest things that I really like about this car. I've always kind of said to myself, like, even when I get to the point of owning some of the exotics and stuff like that, I would still probably have an RS5 Sportback in my fleet. In the BMW world, it would be really cool if maybe they did some kind of Grand Coupe style car with the M4. I think that'd be pretty sick. I know they're coming out with those hatchback ones. Whether they'll make it to the States or not, I'm actually not even really sure. But that's kind of like the exterior of the car. And when you come around here, some of the newer cars, I just love the aggressiveness of the headlights too. Almost looks like it has an eyebrow and it's kind of stretched back a little bit. So the front bumper is very edgy. The wheels are almost like rotor wheels, which I believe is what they're called, but they do look like rotors that are kind of rolling as the car goes by. You know, even the back end, the size of the exhaust and the way they fit into those exhaust wells in the back, the geometry of this entire car makes it look very modern. On the RS5, these hips are slightly more, you know, accentuated. It's just more pronounced, a lot more wide, more aggressive stance. I also do have spacers on this, so I made sure that, you know, the wheels are flush with the panels of the body. Yeah, even when you look at this car from the back, the tail lights are kind of synonymous with the front. You have a slight, you know, rear diffuser here, gives it that sporty look again. I honestly was not expecting to get or buy Misano Red. It's a very aggressive color. I personally have, you know, laser jammers and a police radar installed on this car. And I specifically invested in that because it's a red car and it's a two-door car. So it just stands out, you know what I mean? Now let's go into the interior. I want to talk about that. One of the biggest things that Audi did that I really just love about this car is just the overall design and the layout of everything. I love it. You know, first of all, you have the virtual cockpit, which is bar none one of the best ones that is in the market. It's the most user-friendly. Every single time I sold Audis, I told everybody that the Audi is almost like the Apple of the car world in terms of its user-friendliness and the way that everything's laid out. It's very, very simple to use. One of the best systems that's in the market, hands down. I love the way that Audi, especially in their RS division, I mean, even in their S cars, the way that they laid out some of the trim, and they even have Alcantara on the doors. I love that contrast. There are plastics, obviously. There's carbon fiber. There's Alcantara, which is that suede finish, and then you have leather, and then you have red contrast stitching all throughout the car. The way that they laid it out on the door and throughout the car, it just contrasts all very, very well, and it's all very cohesive. There's not a lot, it's not very complex, it's not too confusing, it's not, you know, over the top or anything like that. It's just a very simple car. I just want to say that with all manufacturers, like, you know, for a while they were doing these screens and just kind of putting it on the dashboard. That's kind of my one gripe about the Audi RS5 and just that generation of Audis in general. Even some of the newer ones have it, unless you get like a Q8 or a Q7 or even the A8, for example, or even the R8. They don't have that screen right here that's stuck here. I don't like that iPad tablet kind of look on the dash just stuck there. I kind of like it built into the dashboard here. But anyways, you have a nice sunroof here. You have LED lighting throughout the car. You have a frameless mirror that's sitting right there. The carbon fiber throughout the car. And obviously the honeycomb stitching that is on the seats as well. I personally really love the shape and the contour of the seats. These side bolsters, you can fill them up with air and hold you to be tighter in the car when you're taking turns and on windy roads. It even has massaging seats as well. And at nighttime when it's really dark in here, you do have the color changing LED. They're not color changing, but you can choose multiple different colors for the interior of the car. I have the Bang & Olufsen sound system in this car. I recently took it to the dealership and they updated the software for it, and it sounds night and day compared to what it was before. Like the bass it doesn't, like before it used to kind of bottom out and it wasn't really balanced. Now it's just, no matter how much I crank up the bass, it doesn't really bottom out that much. It's just a really awesome place and a very awesome cocoon to kind of sit in and cockpit to be in. You got the flat bottom steering wheel, which gives it that very sporty kind of feel to it. You can just tell that this car is a little bit more elevated than the other trim levels of Audi. This car does have Apple CarPlay, so when you plug it in, it will have Apple CarPlay, but I have a device that, you know, made it wireless. So I'm really not missing much in this car. I'm not gonna lie, you know, I'm 5'6", so I've sat in the back before. I've had other people sit in the back before. Would I say like go on a very long trip with the car? Absolutely not. Would I say if you need to just putz around town with friends and they can hop in the back? Yeah, sure. It's super easy to get in the back. It's not very hard at all. It's just kind of cozy or whatnot, but like I said, putzing around town is really not that big of a deal.